Let me just hit the injury participation. The final report, defensive end Turk McBride with his ankle did not practice. He's out. Linebacker John Vilma, left knee, was limited. He's probable. Cornerback Jabari Greer, right knee, was full. He's probable. And then last, defensive end tackle Tom Johnson, left elbow, full, is probable. Any questions?
Sean, you mentioned earlier in the week in conjunction with the running backs how having such a healthy roster makes it a little more difficult in terms of who's going to be inactive. What's your thinking on that now as we get closer to the game?
Well, I think you hit it on the head. We're getting to a pretty good stretch here, knock on wood, where most of the guys are healthy. Turk McBride's the one player right now with his ankle sprain that we're working through, and he's getting close. Then it really falls on, what you're thinking in regards to game plan with the opponent you're playing. What they do offensively and defensively, and having your inactives mostly being healthy is a good problem, and yet it's a challenge that you look at in regards to that specific game, and it's no different now this week. We'll look closely at, and that process begins early in the week as you start to look at reps, because there's, especially with a short week, there's only so many reps that we're going to have in practice, and you want to make sure the guys that are getting them are the guys that are going to be playing. So that's kind of our approach this week.
Hurt injury maybe worse than y'all originally thought?
No, it was a high ankle sprain, and so I think anymore. I think 10 years ago you had what was an ankle sprain, and then some took longer than others, and I think we're a little bit more further along in diagnosing the differences, and so his is kind of what we thought.
Y'all brought Darren Sharper in a couple of years ago and made an immediate impact. I've read several stories where he said he's going to be retiring at the end of the, retiring now. What is that? What did he mean to y'all? And then when he got retired, what did you kind of get in your mind?
Well, first off, he's a Hall of Fame free safety, and I think as you each season put your roster together, at times you look for possibly immediate help in a certain area. And I think what Darren brought, not just to the Saints, but to teams he's played for, is that football awareness at the free safety position. He had real good instincts, and he's a player that you would say the ball finds him. And well, there's a reason that happens. And so he had a real good way of diagnosing based off a film study and based off of his experience of where the quarterback's eyes might go. I think he did a very good job of playing not only red zone defense but field defense in the nickel and breaking on the ball. So for us, for the Saints, he meant a lot in that 2009 season. The turnovers, the scores, leadership. He brought that savvy, if you will, and it allowed us in that season to really work Malcolm more in the nickel and some of the corner positions. And then I think it also helped Malcolm a lot in his transition, playing behind someone like Darren.
Okay, Sean, when you look at the league, I think most people would agree that Green Bay and New England and you guys are three of the better teams, if not three of the best teams, maybe the best in the league. And the total defense there, Green Bay's 30th, New England is 32nd, and you guys are 25th. I know you're an offensive guy, but could you envision that just a couple or a few years ago, that things would change that dramatically?
I think this, though, this came up the other day, and I think it's going to be important in this stretch here as we finish the season. If you go back to the Colts when they won the Super Bowl, and I believe the year was 2006, our first year here, I think their numbers statistically weren't very good defensively, and yet as the season went on towards the very end of it, and then certainly in the postseason, they were very impressive on that side of the ball. I think that when you discuss a team who potentially has a chance to get in the postseason, I think it's critical that you're seeing that improvement as you get ready to play, if you have that opportunity in the postseason. And it might be a strong defense that is trying to get their offense up to speed. I think the same. I think by the time and if and when you get in the postseason, it's not uncommon to see a team that maybe statistically over the course of 16 weeks hasn't put up the numbers maybe that we're looking for, and yet they find a way all of a sudden where they're playing some of their better football. And I think that'll be the case when we look back at, who's standing at the end. I think, that improvement, regardless of the pass stats, is critical. Same way in the special teams. We talk about our kick coverage and, the big return we give up for a touchdown against Green Bay. That's like an F on a test. And then you start, factoring in all your other grades that you're getting. It takes a lot to get yourself back to, an average score because of that one return. So I think that ongoing improvement as you play down the stretch, and you brought up a few teams, I think is critical for the chances of those teams advancing. And so however well we've rushed the football, we need to rush it better as the season wears on. However we've played red zone defense, we need to improve as the season wears on. And the same thing applies to each aspect. And so you hear this term, they're playing some of their best football. I think that's important.
You were talking about turnovers on the offense like 2 days ago or something. You were saying, look, it's not just that turnover number, it's the down and distance, it's maybe
what leads to it. Yeah.
So if it's not just the total defense ranking, what are some of the things that you're looking at to see that improvement?
Well, I think if number one, if you can hurry the passer and the clock in his head, then there's a good chance that that's going to lead to some of the takeaways that you're looking for. I think your pursuit of the football, we've said this before, there's no guarantee with 100% effort that turnovers are going to come, but there is a certainty if there isn't that effort that they're not going to come, or certainly as frequently as you'd like them to. So, but the ball disruptions defensively, you can say it starts with your ability in the front, whether it's through pressure or whether it's just a 4-man rush. That can begin the process of creating more tip balls that are hurried, balls that are thrown maybe off the quarterback's clock that give you an opportunity for those plays. The turnover we had, the other day in the game defensively ended up being a big red zone play for us. We had gone down and ran the fake field goal, didn't make it. New York was driving, and then we come up with the interception. And you hope that they come in bunches, but certainly when we were at our bye with 6 weeks left in the season, there was a plus-minus in regards to where we were at turnover-wise. One of the things we talked about is, look, that number isn't changing, but as we get to the next 6 weeks, let's find a way to be plus in the turnovers, and we're +2 right now. And so I think you have to periodically take a step and then regroup and say, hey, here's the focus right now. In other words, same way with kick coverage. We can't get that return back that we gave up against Green Bay. But let's begin to look closely at moving forward here. And I think that goes with defensive football, offensive football, and in the kicking game. And the example, though, that I bring up with the Colts back in 2006, they really had struggled for a large part of that season defensively. But if you look statistically at the very end of that season and then in their postseason run, I think they went on the road and won at Baltimore. Maybe they might have had one other road game, but they played right at the most important time of the year their best defense. And they weren't going to get that, whatever ranking they had back, but they were certainly willing to and recognize, hey, this is an area that we have to improve on, and if we can, we're going to be a tough team to beat, and they were.
Some fans asked us this week about the challenges you all have in managing all those personnel groups. Without giving away something, they asked us, how difficult is that to say Robert Beacham clears out runs deep? For him to know he's back in the offensive package.
I think it's hard, especially, Jeff, because we don't signal. If you're a team that signals personnel, the player after any play, whether he's run a deep in, a go route, can look and see Curtis Johnson giving a personnel, and that can mean off and on. And so the challenge for us, because we don't signal, is we've got to talk it well. So the players that are hearing it from Curtis on the sidelines that know that they're in are talking it, but it starts right away with Drew. As soon as the call is given to Drew, there's a personnel and a call. So 21 personnel, weak right, 35 Bob. Immediately Drew's echoing 21, 21. And so we have to talk it. The other thing that Drew, I think, does a very good job with is that gray area, 11 or 12 guys in the huddle, and he'll stand back to make sure he's not in that count as all of a sudden we're transitioning, and that same thing exists defensively with the packages we carry, that if we choose to, and we do, be multiple and have a lot, then we need to talk it, we need to understand it, so we don't get caught with an extra player on the field or a penalty, and it's something that we work on. I mean, so the benefit for us offensively is it's not the traditional Lance Moore enters the game, we're in nickel. Lance might be coming onto the field with Meacham, and then we might have Colston and Henderson coming off and a fullback coming on and still being regular. And so I think that forces it doesn't force. It becomes, I think, more of a challenge defensively to match the personnel when you've got 4 receivers that play together, separate. 3 will be on the field the same way with the fullback and the halfbacks, and so we then have to look closely at tendencies, but we have to really do a good job with this whole in and out, up and down, on and off, and that's something to get the tempo that we're looking for that we've got to practice. No different than defensively, we've got to work that with the multiple packages we play with. So it's not an easy thing, but it's something that starts in training camp, and it's something that takes a lot of work. And I think, it's never where you have it down and you're just doing it. I mean, we've got to, even in today's practice, really work that element where guys are coming in, coming off, and I know the effects of it, if it's done properly, are beneficial.
I remember early on in your career you mentioned something about Drew. You said he's a guy that the more buttons he has to push, a car or something. How critical is it having a guy like that can handle all that? Well,
I think what's critical is understanding who you have and then making sure that you're not asking them to do things that they're comfortable with. Drew is very apt at the varied personnel groupings, and he's very apt at being able to get to the line of scrimmage and get us to the right play. And probably most important than anything else is the protections. In other words, I've been where the center is more the guy in charge of who the mic is, and Drew's very comfortable with remiking a defense so that we don't have to throw hot or throw a side adjust. I mean, in 6 years, I can't think of maybe 1 or 2 side adjusts for us. Now, that takes a lot to do that. In other words, you've got to be able to see down safety looks, recognize pressure looks, and there are some players where if you go that direction, there's an immediate drop-off in their performance, and now you've got to look at it and say, are we really doing the right thing as coaches? With Drew, his mind races in a way where it doesn't get blurry. It stays clear, and he can handle that aspect of it. And if you have a quarterback that can handle that, that's a huge benefit.
I know one last thing, but did you learn that about him as you got here?
I think that as the process evolved, there's more and more put on his plate only because we saw he was handling it very comfortably. And I've been other places where we got to take a little bit off the plate and allow this player to play the game, and let's see if there's someone else maybe that can handle more on the plate. And I think that can vary with your team. I mean, I think it's no different than a John Vilma. How much at the line do we want to give him when he feels like a play is being changed offensively, where he has an appetite for that and has shown he can handle that. But that's not the case every team. It can vary.
Sean, so much is made about the crowd noise in the Superdome. Has it been, I guess, your expectations? Has it been?
It was better last. If I was trying to be critical, I'd say it was our best probably Monday night. And night games are always easier, because there's a lead up to the game. And so, here we go again on Sunday night. I think all of us, this happens to players, you get comfortable and you think that you're just going to be able to go out and execute. I think from a fan base standpoint, that creating that excitement that existed in the very beginning when we started winning, as opposed to now when we've won and a fan gets used to it. I think the night games benefit us more, and so as we're in this stretch with really 4 of the last 6 games beginning last week being played at home, that can be a big advantage for us. Sunday night we'll need a great effort. So I'd say they graded out well last weekend.